feel free to let us know. Yeah, as I said, questions at the end, but feel free to put them also in the chat function at the top of the screen of your Microsoft Teams. And Janet, can we have the slide deck up, please? We'll do some introductions of the team that are going to talk, and I'll just explain the agenda, and then we can get going. As I said, my name's Shaun Haden, Head of Strategic Programs and Innovation. Guys, do you want to introduce yourselves? Starting from the left, Jeff.
Yeah, is that really you, Shaun? Hi, I'm Jeff Laidler, Heat Network Program Manager. Nice to meet you all.
Hi, I'm Neil Griffiths from TACE. I'm M&E consultant looking after the design.
And I'm Janet, who I'm appointed to do the resident engagement specifically around the heating and hot water.
Brilliant. If you go on to the next slide, please, Janet. So agenda for tonight, as I said, the guys are going to take us through a presentation, and we're going to talk around heating Lanc West as it is today, future options, resident co-design, and then opportunity for a question and answer at the end. Just to give a bit of summary, a bit more summary, we have been looking at the issue of heating hot water since we arrived onto the estate in 2018, really as a team, and the designs that we're going to be talking about today have been kind of evolving over that period. We've run several pilots, and we've received funding from the Department for Business, Energy and Industrial Strategy, if I can get that right, in order to for us to look at a heat network and look at our options on the estate for heating up water. So some of the people you see today who are part of the team are funded directly from them, just to give that a heads up. So just no further ado, I'll pass over to Janet. I think it is going to talk us through presentation. Janet, away you go.
Yeah, so I've met quite a few of you actually on this call before at some of the architect lot meetings where I've done a 3-slide version of what I'm kind of going to go through tonight. So apologies for any repetition, but hopefully the information that we share will be useful. So just to give you a bit of a background on heating Lanc West today, the top 10 priorities which were completed last year really indicated the struggles that many people are having with heating currently. And we realise that that is very individual experience in each building across the estate. Some it's a much greater issue than others. And some of those relate to the actual heating and the lack of controls, but also the water pressure and the restrictions that kind of puts on how you would actually like to be using your heating and hot water today. So then recently, hopefully you saw the survey that went around the estate. Sorry, I haven't got a picture up of it or the results yet. But we've had, I think it's between 90 and 100 responses on that survey, which I think definitely has brought home to all of us how important this issue is to everyone. And that's been really, really useful. We have got quite a high level of detail from people on the current issues and some of kind of the history, the longer term history of heating in the estate as well. So that's been super helpful. So a bit about how Lanc West is heated today. So many of you may be aware that the estate is largely heated by 2 heat networks, which I will explain in the next slide. But basically there's 2 communal boilers, one located at the walkways, which is currently in a temporary location outside Testerton Walk. And then there is a second large boiler actually located in Camelford Court, which is heating several buildings on the east side of the estate. So those boilers are still working, but the pipe network that actually connects to the buildings and through the buildings to those boilers is in need of replacement. And as mentioned, heating controls also need to be modernised in each home. And then the remainder of the estate, which is 20% of homes located at Treadgold, Camborne Mews and Verity Close, have individual gas boilers. And the second kind of reason that we actually do have to look at the alternative heating other than to improve it is that there is an intention to wind down gas in the UK. So we have to start looking at how those boilers can be replaced with something that is more sustainable and better for the long-term heating solution at the estate. I think someone's taken over my slideshow. I no longer have control, so if someone has control, can they skip through the next slide? Take control. I can take control. There we go. What is the heat network? Very simply put, it is plumbing at a very large scale. So you have one central energy centre with pipes that connect each building and then each flat home within each building. So as mentioned, 80% of the estate is already heated in this way. Though it is quite an old generation model, very old-fashioned model of what a heat network is. So, next slide. And again, I'm potentially reiterating some of the stuff that I've already said, but the need for change, I think we've summarised in 3 reasons. The first being to improve homes, the second to actually reduce energy use, and hopefully therefore reducing people's bills as well. And that, of course, is going to work alongside the refurbishment of each building and the improvements that are going to be made in terms of preventing leaks and better insulation and basically retaining the heat that that is brought into the building. And then the third reason is achieving net zero carbon. So through this presentation, I've got a few polls to share with you, and this is the first. So I don't know if any of you have been in the meeting and done this before, but I have just opened the first poll, which hopefully should appear somewhere on your screen.
Yeah, it has, yeah.
Fantastic. If you have an opinion on this, it would be really great for you to share that and make your vote now. I should say that all of this information is going into the co-design process. It's being shared with Nigel and the other engineers who are working on this team, the wider project team, and the council to direct the design and development of the project. So if you go ahead and vote, I can't see what the live voting is like, but I'll move on to the next slide and leave it open. So just to give you a bit more background about the kind of the energy efficiency aspects of the project and why we need to look at heating specifically within the estate. So 31% of personal domestic carbon emissions is actually due to heating, and for most of us it's the biggest component of our carbon footprint, bigger than electricity, bigger than all the food that we eat actually, and for most of us more than we actually spend in transport. So implementing a renewable heating project is really a way that we can begin to tackle that very high percentage of carbon emitted in our lives and hopefully make our homes better at the same time. And as you are all aware, Lancaster West, this percentage might be higher because the homes are currently not very energy efficient. And then just to give you a bit of an illustration on kind of the net zero goal in the UK and what that actually means in terms of changing how we heat our homes and the need that we have to move away from fossil fuels, that's coal, oil and gas. And currently 85% of heat in the UK is actually provided by natural gas. So it's going to be an area in which there's quite a lot of new policy and legislation is going to come out in the next few years so that we begin to wind down and move away from gas. So the UK government has already said that they are not going to build any new home gas connections from 2025. And there's already been discussion of actually phasing out existing boilers in public buildings from 2030, and then a phase out of domestic gas boilers from 2033. That legislation isn't in place yet, but it is something that's being looked at by the government. So I'm just going to pause for a couple of minutes and see if there's any hands, any clarifications about what I've showed so far. There is another, we're halfway through the presentation, so we can wait to the end for the Q&A, but if there's any specific questions to what I've just shown, that would be really good to hear from you. No questions? I'll keep running through then. And so onto the options that are being considered for the estate. And there's been lots of discussions, there's been a few studies and there's been prototypes done across the estate, I believe in kind of the last year, possibly even 2 years, looking at what heating options may work. And those have ranged from the individual flat or house improvements, so looking at whether installing individual air source heat pumps or electric storage heaters would be a feasible option, or whether looking at each building, each block individually, and whether there could be an efficient, affordable solution installed for each building. And then the third option, which is the one that we have received the grant money for and are exploring, is the estate-wide option. So that we'll look at replacing the existing 2 heat networks with a single heat network, a new energy centre, and that it will also actually have the capability to potentially connect to wider social housing properties within the local area as well. And yeah, just a quick diagram here to show how that might work, and that the heat network would actually serve all the homes and or be capable of serving all the homes and not just the 80% that are currently on the communal heating networks. So now I'm just going to run into a series of slides that explain how the heat network is different from the existing heat network. So we just want to emphasize some of the kind of the points where it will be different, and it's not a case of another kind of deficient heating system, but that there's lots of kind of new aspects to this system that should improve everyone's heating considerably. So the first one is moving away from gas, and the technology that we are looking at is called a heat pump, which is a very efficient way of upgrading low-level energy sources and low-level heat sources to high-level heat source. So it means that heat can be extracted from sewage or from air, and it can be converted into high temperatures through a process of boiling and cooling. It's basically like your fridge, but working in reverse. If anyone's interested in how the technology works at the end, I have a slide and you can stay on and get an explanation about that as well. And one of the important things to point out is that unlike kind of electric heating, which you put 1 unit of energy in, you get 1 unit of heat or 1 unit of energy out. This system, you put 1 unit of energy in and you get at least 3 out. So it multiplies the heating effect, the energy effect, and makes it very efficient. So as part of this proposition, we will have to actually establish a new renewable energy centre. And this is the location that's currently under consideration. There is a long list. This is just the option that the technical team and the wider kind of neighbourhood team thinks could work best. And again, we would like to hear your opinion on this and whether you could see it being an appropriate site to do so. So I've got another poll and I will just share that with you now. It may be that you've got some questions about that as well. I should also mention the size of that energy centre hasn't yet been confirmed. So I think we know that it can fit within this area without kind of impeding or closing in on the pedestrian space. And it's kind of set quite back from the existing pedestrian thoroughfare between the school and the leisure centre. So if you have any thoughts on that, please do share them with us.
Janet, there's a hand up.
Yeah.
I want to take that now at the end. I'm not sure. I think it's BS Stewart.
Shall we take it now, just in case it's a point of clarification? Yeah.
Just to clarify, you know, when you say the energy centre, you're talking about the substation.
So this substation in the photograph is existing. And sorry, there's quite a lot of background noise there. And I think the plan is to, Jeff, I'm going to check this one with you. Is the plan to replace the existing substation, or is the plan that the energy centre will sit alongside the substation?
So there's going to be a planning application coming forward. I think there's extensive consultation with residents planned in relation to the substation that's under the tower at the moment and the relocation of it. And then in addition, we're then looking at the renewable energy centre, which we would hope become a sort of a very a positive sign of what's possible. And there's an opportunity, I guess, for the design of that energy centre to really think about it and get everyone's engagement. And it's going to be something that people can be proud of, which is where potentially this location could actually work quite nicely. Certainly, if you look at that substation, we wouldn't be looking for that sort of design. Something a lot more,
Just because I was on the meeting with the substation the other week, so I'm just I was just confused whether it was the same thing. So it's this new substation and then this resource centre, so it's going to be 2 things that are built.
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah, so this current substation would move, and then the renewable energy centre would be built in this location potentially. And I don't know if you have seen, but I was going to share some images. Unfortunately, I don't have them, but
it's been built outside our block, so I live at Verity, so I've seen the design for it.
Yeah, so you know more than I do in that one. And so it's very much early days, work in progress, but we'd just like to sound out what people think in the first place and before we proceed on it. So sorry, I've muted myself. Sorry, the second reason that this plan will be different, heat network will be different from the existing network, is that it will actually be designed to work with the refurbishment of homes. So one of the problems with the heating today is that the pipes are coming to the end of their life, but there's also other aspects of the homes that have deteriorated. So the heating hasn't been designed to work for the current condition of your home. And of course, it's going to be redesigned to work with your home when it's completely upgraded. And then the third reason is actually that you will have controls that you currently don't have. So the blue box in the middle of this picture with the letters HIU above it is a heat interface unit. And this piece of equipment basically marks the line between the heat network and your property and your radiators and your existing central heating system. So that unit has a whole level of control that you currently don't have. So most homes have an on-off switch for winter and have no option as to whether they're heating or not in summer. The introduction of a heat interface unit means that you will be able to determine how much heating you have all year round. So that's a very significant change to the current network. And this is just a picture of what a heat interface unit looks like. It's about the same size as a standard wall-hung boiler. And we'll just move on to another co-design question. If you have any suggestions or any concerns about the location of a heat interface unit in your home, could you just type the concern or the idea or thought in the chat and indicate which building you're in as well, so that we just have some record of that. The intention will be that a heat interface unit will be installed in a service cupboard close to the pipe network that will connect your home to the energy centre. That's going to have to be looked at each building individually. So we realise that every flat layout is different across the estate, and it's going to be the work of the engineers and the architects to determine which location is the best for you, and that will have to be kind of a part of a consultation process further down the line as well. And so if you have any thoughts on that, please do share them in the chat. And then moving on to the proposed timeline. Oh, we have another question.
Yeah, I'm just wanted to ask, is this now going to be all electric or there are gas go as well?
So it's the heat interface unit will have a very low level electric supply, only for actually running kind of the screen and the monitor on it. There's no gas coming into your property to run it. There's no, the heat interface unit works in a very, very kind of simple way. So it basically transfers heat from one pipe network to the other pipe network. There's no burning of fuel that happens within it like a boiler. So it is a very kind of, it's a very simple technology.
So there are no gas anymore after that?
No.
It's only electric?
It's, yes, it is just a hot liquid that runs through it. That's it.
Hot liquid.
So
through
well,
the pipe. I'm just wanted to ask, but I'm calling behalf of my sister for 7-hour calendar walk. She have actually communal heating, and always as well there is a gas as well. She got a cooker always by gas, and now when you disconnected the gas, that means she going all work with electric, isn't it?
So as part of the wider refurbishment plan,
yeah,
I'm not sure whether the cooking will remain gas or not. Shaun, do you have an answer in that one?
I don't think it will. I think the plan is to move to electric, but I'm not 100% certain that that decision's been formally made yet. So happy to take that away as a question for us to come back to you on.
how is going to be the changing the system it will be the planning to be changing as electric,
Yeah.
or as a gas, or combination as now, or
Yeah,
something like that.
Go on, Jeff.
I was going to say maybe I can try and answer. So what you'll end up with in your property or person's property is a wet system. So it'll be with radiators. So it's still water that's running round.
Yeah.
What that heat interface unit does is actually link that water system in with the water system that's running around the buildings and the estate. So it's a wet system. It's plumbing. And yeah, there's no combustion there at all in terms of there's no gas being burnt where it's being heated. That water is being heated back at the energy centre.
This is the heating system.
Yeah.
So I was thought it is going to be individual system, like for example, I got my own flat, I've got my individual health system, work with gas and electricity together. The boiler work with gas and electricity.
So if you're on an individual system, there will be an option. If you have a boiler today, there will be an option to join the heat network in the future.
Yeah.
So I'll come on to the next slide, and I think that will begin to explain that a little bit further as well, actually.
Okay.
Thanks for your questions.
No problem. Just to be understand what's going on from the beginning here.
I think you might have some more questions, actually, Janet.
Yeah, I think there's one more. Yes.
Stuart.
Yeah, just a quick one, because obviously you said it would be on an individual basis, but a lot of the properties on the estate are now having the internal refurbs, so we're going to have that. How likely is that to affect our internal refurbs? Because we just had our places done, and then we're going to have more people coming in to do more construction. It just seems a bit silly that you're doing. It seems like it's done the wrong way round, that you're not putting into the systems before you put in the internal refurbs and get people's flats the way they want them.
Can I ask which block you're in?
I'm in Verity Close.
Verity Close. Yeah, I think that's a bit of an issue. Verity Close, it's actually quite interesting in that it will be one of the last blocks to join the heat network. So actually that work might happen a bit further down the line than in other locations. So that may make a difference, but we are working with the internal refurb team to tackle this problem. And we are also working with the external refurbishment to see where the works for each dwelling can be aligned completely. And that is 100% a goal to make sure that we are actually doing everything at once that we possibly can. I don't know if there's anyone else in the team that maybe wants to chip in on this comment.
Yeah, there just needs to, the question's absolutely valid, and there just needs to be a little bit of coordination. What's really happening at the minute is that there are decisions being made about the wider network, and there are decisions being made about the refurb, and the intention is to align them. They have been slightly misaligned, but the intention is just to go in once and do all of the work, so people aren't disrupted on a number of occasions. There is some disruption once the flat's refurbed, it has everything in it, and then there's no need to go back into the flat and do any further work. So they are being aligned at the minute.
Sorry,
David. Sorry, go on.
It's just that obviously residents are going to be quite upset because now they've got the substation, then they're going to have this new control centre built, then they're going to have the internal refurb, and then they're going to have the heating network. After 3 years of construction with the school, then Grenfell is just consistent on Verity at the minute. So I know I've spoken to a few people on the estate and on this side of the estate, and they're already concerned about the noise levels and the disruption that it's going to cause to us going forward.
That's really useful to make us aware of that, and I can see Jeff scribbling notes away for us to go and think about. Yeah, that's really helpful. Thank you, and we'll take that into consideration where we can. I see another question.
Yeah, I think David Ward's. David.
Hi there. I'm in Verity Close as well, and the conversations that I've had with Sharon Davis from the internal refurb team, they're looking to do the internal refurb of Verity kind of mid to late summer this year. So how close are your plans about realigning? Because it sounds like you're going to be cutting it fine, because I certainly don't want to have a complete internal refurb for you to then come along however much time later and potentially kind of rip some of that out to put in a district heating system, because we're obviously on a combi boiler. So those conversations will need to be happening really quickly.
We've already set those standards. I mean, we've started with Moorland because the way the contractors were working. But so within Moorland, what we've done is we've set up the builders' work requirements that we're going to connect into at a later date. So the intention on Moorland is, and it will be taken all the way through the site, that all the builders' work will be in place, and even temporary connections will be in place. So if you take Moorland for argument's sake, pipe work comes onto the walkway, and it connects into nothing at the minute other than the walkway. So, and the MVHR louvers are being put in, and the MVHR is being put in. So the intention is at a later date that you connect outside the apartment, and that philosophy is going to get taken through the whole site. So all of the Lancaster West kind of areas, obviously including Verity, will all have a philosophy with one project in terms of the works that are taking place inside. There will be further disruption, but that disruption will be external. So the intention is to align all of those contractors and programs so they come together and ensure that all the works take place under one envelope.
Yeah, Nigel, that was my understanding as well, that we would go into individual properties and do that internal refurbishment work and do that work to the heating hot water systems in those individual properties, and then connect to the external primary network as part of the heat network that you're going to install. But that disruption would only be once to the individual tenant per se. So we wouldn't go in and rip out something that we've already installed. Basically, we'd go in once, do the job, do the work, and then basically that would be the disruption to that individual tenant. That's correct. That's David.
Sorry, I joined late, so I may have missed this, but for us, obviously, we have none of the infrastructure for district heating network. So, given the kind of how close we are to having our internal refurb, what plans?
Yeah, it'd be good to have a chat with. Yeah, just be good to have a conversation about the timelines of that internal refurbishment, because at the moment we've just started with Moorland, so that process or that program has really just begun. So the idea that we would be internally refurbishing all of Verity, I don't know exactly what Sharon said at in this summer, I don't think is probably accurate, but I'm happy to, as I said, to kind of have a chat with yourself and come back to the group and find out what Sharon's plans are. But from my understanding, we're at Moorland at the moment, and that's kind of a pilot block. That's to us to understand the issues that we may face, and then we'll move on to other blocks, basically.
Okay, thank you.
So I think there's another question from Pat Matthews. Pat's got your hand up. Hello, Pat.
We've perhaps kept Pat here too long.
If not, we can carry on.
Yeah, we can carry on. And...
Hello.
Oh, there we go.
Pat.
Brilliant.
You got hello. Sorry about that.
That's all right.
Bit new to this. I'm in Tread Gold House.
Yeah.
And none of what you're saying, it doesn't. I don't think it agrees. Like it meets anything that we're having done, does it?
So Treadgold House is again a completely different situation.
Yeah, I thought so.
And a different programme due to the must be zero requirements. So I believe that the heat network is still being an option considered. And I think, Jeff, you have done quite a lot of meetings with Treadgold House team recently.
Yes. So the refurbishment is going to be happening. It's one of the earlier blocks to be done, if not the first, as I understand it. And obviously, you're not on the existing heat network, so we'd like to work with you to see if we can future-proof the block so that it can be connected as and when we've got that heat network installed across the estate. So we were just looking at the options as to what might be technically possible. And I guess the good news story is that with that must be zero funding, as a block, you can become zero carbon very early on. And we're just wondering whether we might be able to look at a large air source heat pump, so you've got you're future proof to be able to connect to the heat network as and when it's built. But that's obviously we're only just starting on that journey, and we obviously need to work closely with you and all the residents at Treadgold to work that through. But we certainly wouldn't want you to miss out on being able to connect to the heat network, and it sounds like you've got that opportunity to hit that zero carbon target a lot sooner than perhaps some of the other blocks.
Yeah, I thought we would, because I wasn't recognising anything that you're telling these other people. It's different to what we've been told. So yeah, but that substation, it's not going to be noisy, is it?
No.
So there's a difference.
Well,
a difference between the substation and the energy centre. So the
Right.
substation is the kit for pushing the electricity around the estate, whereas
Yeah.
what we would be then putting next door is an energy centre to push the water around the estate, so the renewably
Right.
heated water. So there would undoubtedly be some kit in there that we would make sure would be the noise would be acceptable for that location. So I don't think noise would be an issue.
We'll have to be, there'll be planning criteria around the noise level, which will be stipulated to ensure it isn't a nuisance. So if any pieces of equipment are generating noise, we will have to attenuate them, because that will be incumbent on us as designers as part of the planning process. So anything in there won't be a nuisance.
Okay. All
Abbas,
right, thank you.
Sorry, cheers. Thank you, Pat. Abbas, I think Abbas Tadal.
Yes.
Abbas.
Good evening, everyone. If Shaun, can you respond to me? So it's been established that district heating will be in place for the whole estate, yes? But the source of the energy will be different.
So, well, our plan is to have one single heat network for the estate, as we sort of sketched out as two heating sources at the moment, two district heating systems, which we need to renew or replace. We're going to replace those with one. 80% are on those heat networks at the moment, and the plan is just to migrate those into that new system. 20% of the estate, which is on individual heating solutions, they're on individual gas boilers, so they at some point will need to migrate, and our plan is to offer that solution, that heat network to those residents. Jeff, have I?
Yeah. So
yes, go ahead, please.
Oh yeah. So I was going to say, I mean, the aim is that by 2030, all of the hot water is heated from renewable energy. So to start with, there'd be a combination of using some gas with the renewable energy, whether it's from the atmosphere or whether we actually take it from the sewage, or a combination of both. And then as we move towards 2030, we'll actually get rid of the gas, so there won't be any gas for heating on the estate, heating hot water, and then it'll all come from these environmental sources. So and it will all come from this central energy centre. So your heating hot water becomes a lot more environmentally friendly and becomes zero carbon by 2030.
How reliable is it going to be?
Good question.
Very good question.
Nigel.
So that's that's absolutely fundamental to the whole setup. It's got to be reliable. It's got to be efficient. And I guess what we're replacing is two heat networks that were built in the I think it was the late 1970s. They've done very well to last till now, but they're obviously at the end of their life. What you're looking at is you can think of how much technology's moved on. And what we can actually install in its place is a brand new heat network that will have this renewable energy source. But importantly for you is that it's going to work. It's got to be reliable. So that's absolutely fundamental to it. It's only if it's reliable and it gives you the hot water, are you going to be interested whether it saves any carbon. So we're really keen to make sure that that's obviously designed in, and it is being designed.
I think that's absolutely sort of in my mind, I know in James's mind and the rest of the team as well, that reliability factor is massive. Like, I think that's been throughout all of the sort of conversations we've had internally, as well as with people like Jeff and Nigel and Janet and those that have joined us more recently, that reliability is number one for us. It has to work. So whatever solution that we're kind of offering to residents, it needs to be cast iron. It needs to work, basically, because we recognise the kind of reliability issues that everyone is having, basically. So that is number one importance in our mind, basically.
So has this been used in any other place at this size?
Yeah, there's lots of examples of district heating. Certainly on the continent, it becomes. I mean, there's large. I mean, take for example Copenhagen. I think it's 95% of the city has got district heating. So it's an established technology, been around for over 100 years. In the UK, because we've had North Sea gas, we've got some examples of district heating, but we just haven't got it at the scale that we have in continental Europe. But it's certainly a very established technology.
Okay, and one last thing I wanted to bring into your attention. I'm sure you guys have been trying to find a solution about it. I think what everyone else expressing and is to minimize the disruption. So if you can find a way, even I know the plan was to start from smaller blocks first. But for example, if internal refurbishment going to happen in verticulars, if you guys know what sort of pipes you need to put in place, so while that work is happening there, you can put the heating pipes there. So when it comes to do their heating network, you just connect the pipe, to the property.
Absolutely. I think disruption is again, I think it's something that certainly the neighbourhood team is really, really well aware of now. And yes, it's kind of at the forefront of our mind when we start to do some planning around some of the timelines to do with this project and the wider refurbishment, that disruption is going to have to kept at a minimum, and that really comes down to our planning and how we coordinate some of this work. Nigel, Jeff, and Jenna, I don't know if you've got any additional on disruption.
So I think picking up on that disruption point is that we've actually really thought about it and thinking that as the refurbishment happens and the refurbishment is done, that we do it at exactly the same time. So we're completely linked in with the refurbishment program. So the heat network becomes a subset of that refurbishment program. So for you, as people are coming in to refurbish the properties, then they're doing the heat network at the same time. So that's absolutely front and centre.
I think there's
Michelle. Can I just finish on that?
Yeah, of course.
That would be contributing to spend our refurb money more efficiently if the work happen in one go in one property. So a lot of money can be saved.
Absolutely. Again, sort of maintain that budget, and is something that keeps me alive at night, is making sure we're using that as efficiently as we can do, because we want to do as much as we can, really, and the best job that we can. So making sure that money is used efficiently and effectively is key, and like you say, planning and how we coordinate all of these different projects together is quite important and quite key to that sort of managing that budget.
Thank you.
Michelle, Activa, you've had your hand up and I think you've just put it down, so apologies, but did you want to ask?
Still there.
Sorry.
Yeah. Hi. will the position of the energy centre equally distribute heat and hot water across the entire estate, and the water pressure for the upper and lower floors? Because at the moment, water pressure is really bad. I live on a top floor on the walkways, and the water pressure is really, really low. If so, 3 to 5 years is a very long time to wait to actually have a decent bath.
Nigel, Jeff, one for you, I'm afraid.
Can I ask you, has your flat been refurbished or not? Are you on the old cylinders?
Yeah.
Yeah. So, I mean, this is happening all across the estate because there's a break in the water pressure with the way the systems were set up originally. So there's not because you break the system, the main system, and you have a little tank, then you can't get enough pressure to have a shower, and you've only got that little bit of head of water within the space. So the new proposals as you go through the refurbishment are to change that arrangement around so you're getting mains water pressure. So you will it will be resolved as a water pressure issue, and the intention is that for baths that you will have so much more heat available to you for things to have, you know, baths and showers where the heat is instantaneous within the new system that we've put together. So immediately it's not particularly resolvable in terms of the pressure, because we have to do the pressure with the refurbishment. There's no kind of shortcut to that, because we have to take that break tank out that breaks the pressure into your flat, and we have to replace it with a mains fed system. So unfortunately, it is on the agenda. It will be done, but it will be done as part of the refurbishment, and there isn't actually a quick fix because of the way they were set up originally.
Can I chip in with a simpler answer, shorthand answer as well, which is that the heat interface unit basically does instant hot water in a similar way that a boiler does. So you don't need to have a tank storage anymore.
It's not necessarily the hot, well, it is the hot water. The hot water is hot enough. It's just that you don't get enough of it. It just sort of comes out. So you never get a full bath ever.
Yeah, you won't do, and that's unfortunately it's just intrinsically, because of the way the system was originally set up, it's intrinsically a fault of that design. And without being an engineer, I know I go into too much technical detail, which I won't, but until we've changed that system, we can't resolve that issue. We're aware fundamentally it's across the site, it's set up like that, but we need to change the way the water is delivered to the residents, and it's part and parcel of what we're doing. We're acutely aware of it. We know exactly what we've got to do, but it's just going to happen when we do the refurbishment.
Thank you.
Abbas, is that a new hand or is that an old question you had? Still got your hand up.
Sorry, it's the old one.
All right, cheers, thank you.
Shall I move on to the next slide?
If there's no more questions, and yep, that's fine.
So we've actually covered quite a lot of the content around this slide, which is the proposed timeline. So as we've discussed, from this year, improvements to everyone's domestic heating systems can begin on a block by block basis in alignment with the refurbishment, and that work will likely include replacing radiators and kind of making the pipe work more efficient, and installing a heat interface unit. And then in parallel to that, there will also be replacement of the plumbing, the communal plumbing in each block, which again is going to happen on a block by block basis, so that it happens all at once, hopefully, for each building. And during that period, the gas boilers will still be ticking over and supplying you heat. And then the intention will be between 2023 and 2024, the energy centre will be built. So from hopefully 2024 onwards, there will be a process of flicking the switch as such between the gas boilers and receiving heat from the new renewable energy centre, which won't require any additional pipe work within your individual building because it's already been done. So the co-design question on this, I think it's already our most commented item. But do you have any ideas on how we can support you during the project delivery? Again, we've already taken notes of comments made, but if there's any further thoughts on this, please do put them in the chat and we will pick them up. And then a few other details about the co-design approach and what we're doing. It is quite an unusual situation to actually be designing plumbing with residents, but it's a challenge that Nigel and team have taken on with gusto, and I am going to be in the estate doing a series of pop-ups over the next 2 weeks with some co-design questions and exhibition boards, so please do come down and say hello. I think we're in Verity Close and Talbot Grove House tomorrow, I think. I need to double check where I'm going. So please do come along to those. And we will also be holding a focus group with National Energy Action, NEA. And we've invited this charity and organisation along as an independent advisor or friend to residents. Heating is a technical area. It's a complicated area in terms of personal finances as well for many of us. So we wanted to bring them in as kind of representative and a third party to just make sure that you have all the information that you need to think about the future heating project. And they have a collection of technical advisors and also kind of people who are experts on tariffs and so on involved in that charity as well. So those are going to be happening between the 9th and 14th of April. You can email me if you would like to join one of those focus groups. And then the final element is that we're going to be kind of reviewing all of the information and all of the comments that we've received from residents between mid-April and mid-May to make sure that we have got this right or the best option and before we take it through the council processes as well. So that forms our kind of consensus process also. So that is presentation over. If there's any more questions in the room, that would be really fantastic to hear them. Yes, straight off. Stuart.
I've just got a quick one because I've got a surveyor appointment for next week because there was talk about them doing a pilot on my thing because I'm a block rep. So others on the estate can thingy, but I'm a bit concerned now with obviously, the way it's going to work. Because if I have this surveyor done and they do use my flat as a pilot, is this going to affect it? And would it be better off to wait? Is my question to you.
What property are you in? Is in Verity Close, did you say? Yeah,
Verity Close. So I'll be one of the last, as you say. Yeah. So,
Nigel, do you know? I'm unfamiliar with that particular pilot. I have to be honest and say that.
I don't. Well, it's ECDA are going to do.
Okay.
Yeah. They're going to look at the improvements in terms of improving the fabric down to NFIT standards, which is in their stage 2 document. Okay. So basically that means that they're just going to try and make your space more energy efficient. They're going to look at some options of providing heating with, I understand, an air source heat pump or something different than the gas-fired boiler that you've got at the minute. and they're going to run that as a test along with putting MVHR in, and basically then going to, look at the results of that over a short period of time, just to see how much benefit there is in terms of what your existing bills look like and what your proposed bills are looking like. So it's only, I don't think it will be any detriment, because down the line, when you'll benefit from effectively having a better performing house, flat, than you early on, and some of those results will go into making some of the future decisions. So there'll be things, you may come back and say, actually, I didn't like the way this worked. So the architects, along with ourselves and the other consultants and designers, will be able to change that. So it really is just that feedback. You might say you've got MVHR and it didn't do what it was supposed to do, or you didn't like the way it operated, or what I mean. We can recommend lots of systems to say this is how they work, because this is how they're designed. But your experience of that is really, really important to us, so we can understand in practice how you get on with those systems. So I think most of the systems will be passive that have been put in there, so they won't operate. It will just be improving the space, and some of them will be active, and the active systems are the ones that we'll probably get some feedback on. And if you don't like them, we change them.
All right, so it's better to follow through with this then, yeah?
I think it's a win-win, to be fair.
All right, thanks.
Yeah.
There's an important question in the chat around whether leaseholders will be charged for the installation and connection of this system. That is something that we are in the process of reviewing. We have to look at the leaseholds for, the different types of leaseholds that are in existence across the estate, and consider that. Shaun, is there anything you want to add to that?
No, yeah, that's still a work in progress. I think it depends which block you're in, and really does kind of. I know we need to assess the, like you say, Janet, the lease agreements, and also understand the kind of financial implications of some of this as well. But yeah, so I can't. Well, I haven't got a better answer than that at the moment, I'm afraid.
It is it's information that we're going to have to share with you as soon as we do know. We're very aware of that, and it obviously needs to be answered before the project goes much further. So
yeah,
we will share that information with you. I hope that we might have a bit of a clearer picture when we're running the focus groups in 2 weeks on that issue. So
I think we certainly will have a clearer picture then. But yeah, I think there probably needs to be some form of communication that goes out around that particular issue once we've clearly defined what's what, so to speak.
Yeah, I'll put that in an action list for myself. Yeah, is there any further questions?
Any other questions?
Yeah, just a small questions, if you don't mind.
Yeah.
About at the moment you got a boiler and heating the hot water for the flat. You're going to take this boiler off. How the water going to distribute to the flat? Not the heating, the hot water for the flat.
It's the same. If you can just imagine that, if you ignore gas for a moment and just imagine that everything in the flat works as it would do as if it was a boiler, it's just not being fed with gas. So the hot water's being heated and the heating is being heated to warm the flats exactly the same as they are now. It's just that the source.
The water is running from outside hot, for example.
Yep.
You've got it outside hot from the pipe. So you're changing the whole pipe for the whole block or the whole area. You know what I mean? To get the hot water.
Yeah. So what you'll have is that energy centre we were talking about. There'll be pipes that will take the hot water from that energy centre to all the blocks on the estate that will then feed the hot water in the radiators in your property.
So there is no control for the water, heat, the hot water, as well the radiator is going to be electric radiator, for example. So changing the whole radiator, to change the whole system, and you put it all electric, or as it is by the network, you mean? That's what's going to happen.
It's not electric in the flats. No, it's wet. It's exactly the same as it is now. If you just think of everything that you have,
as it is communal heating, so the heating already come from outside. The gas right. Already. I mean the gas, the boiler, the heating, the gas from outside, not from the flat. So the flat only they got a meter for gas meter, only charging for the cooker, nothing else. But the rest of the heating is come already from the boiler. If you can radiator or hot water, all come from the boiler. And the heat of the boiler is come from the gas which is connected to the central. You know what I mean? This is what I'm, confusing. If you're going to do this now, so they mean the hot water is coming from outside, hot to the flat, as the heating is come to out by electric.
It's just it's within the flat.
Yes.
There is the gas at the moment drives the boiler.
No, the gas. It's a gas. It is only meter gas for using the cooker only, but the heat for the radiator and the hot water from outside. Only the boiler, the big boiler in the flat.
Yeah. So what you'll end up with is a new system of doing the same thing, but you'll have a renewable energy source on the end of it rather than gas. So it will be communal, but it will be environmentally friendly heating that will then, and it'll be a new network that will come all the way to the flat, replacing what's there at the moment.
But there is a gas already in the flat using the cooker.
Yeah.
So it's going to be stay the same.
We'll check on that about the cookers and whether they're going to be converted to electric as well. We'll come back to you on that one.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Sorry about that.
No. It is confusing.
I'm just actually confused what's happening. Can explain to my sister what's going on, because I'm personally, I go in my flat, I got my boiler and my own heating and hot water using my gas and my electricity, the same together in one thing. So doing my flat, doing my heating, doing everything. But she is going to be different, isn't it? So something new. So we'll see how it is coming. Sorry about that.
No worries. There's lots of changes happening.
Yeah.
Pat Matthews.
Yeah. Thanks. I just wanted to ask, will it be like your company that are in charge of Tregold as well as everywhere else, or do we get different people?
No, it's the same team, Lancaster West Neighbourhood Team. We're the ones running the project, and then we've got basically consultants such as Nigel to help us to come to the right conclusions about what we should do, basically. But it will be Lancaster West Neighbourhood Team that are kind of running the project, basically.
Okay, all right.
Yeah.
Just so I can jot your names down.
Yeah, sure. Yeah.
Yeah. Here's why
I know I'm talking. I know I'm talking.
Yeah, I'm there. I'll be there
thanks.
to the end, probably.
Is there any further questions?
Thank you.
No. Anything else in the chat? Okay. Well, if there's no more questions, I think that's us, isn't it, Janet? We don't have any more slides. We'll obviously package up and post the slides on our app and website as well, and also the recording of the event as well will go on YouTube. And thank you for your attendance, and thank you for your questions. I really appreciate you taking the time out of your day to join us today, and hopefully we've answered some of your questions. But as Janet says, there's plenty more opportunities for you to get involved in helping us to make these decisions with you, and we look forward to kind of being in contact with you in future. Okay. Thank you, guys.
Thanks, everyone.
Cheers.
Cheers.
Thank you.
Take care.
Bye-bye.
Bye now.
Bye.